Monday, January 28th. I'm Rim.
I'm Scott.
And this is Geeknights. Tonight, software should always get better.
Let's do this.
Today, when I got home from work, I was greeted by possibly the most wonderful thing I've seen in about 5 months, give or take. I get off the train, and there's this orb, this gigantic fiery ball, and it wasn't like on the ground. It was up in the sky, like floating there, and there was light coming off of it. There was light everywhere. There was light. There was light outside. I haven't seen such a thing in many moons.
Yeah, it's been pitch black for how long?
Well, considering in the winter, I get up at the crack ass of before dawn, and I go to work, and I come home from work pretty early, but not before that big fiery day star goes down.
Well, it's because it's the winter and, the daylight savings, whatever time. I don't know if it's daylight savings time or not, but it's one of the, it's either it is or it isn't.
See, that's the one thing, the one regret I have from moving away from the Midwest was that when I lived in Detroit or Sterling Heights, I was on the other end of effectively the same time zone. Well, not effectively. I was on the other end of this time zone. So I basically got an extra hour of daylight every day that I don't get now.
Yeah, try living in Boston or somewhere like that. It's way east.
Yeah, you know what? I'd probably cry. I had enough trouble living in Rochester where it was cold all the time.
Maybe someone should do like a little chart. I bet like people who live on like western halves of time zones are a little happier maybe.
They might be, because I don't understand why we don't just have daylight savings time all the time, because all it does is give the vast majority of people an extra hour of sunlight.
Because crazy parents don't want their kids to have it be dark in the morning, even though it's dark in the morning anyway.
I know. God, I remember getting up in high school. I'd get up at like 5:30 to go to high school, and it'd be pitch black out.
Yep.
Walk up the hill and 2 miles in the snow barefoot. Blah, blah, blah. Anyway.
No, that was your grandpa. So yeah, anyway, I've been getting static shocks, from static electricity quite a bit lately. Some contributing factors might be, the wearing of sweaters. I mean, when I did my laundry this weekend, I took, the t-shirt out of the inside of the sweater and it goes, But actually at work, I've been having a real problem in the bathroom has a door handle, right? And like for a good...
Wait a minute. Static electricity in the bathroom is always dangerous.
No. For like a week or so, right? Or even more than a week. Like every time I would go to the bathroom, right? When I would reach for that handle to open up the door to the bathroom, I would get a shock. Right?
Wow. It's kind of like a reverse Pavlovian dog where now, think about it. Did you ever have this thought where you're walking up to that door and you're about to grab it and then you think, oh, I'm about to get shocked?
I was about to say that basically, without even realizing it, I'm sort of, every time now I go to that handle, I hesitate and then just grab it anyway because I have to.
Mr. Brown always hesitated when he touched door handles when I was in high school, but that was because we tended to put Tesla coils on the other sides of them.
Yeah, but now I'm going to now what I'm going to do to counteract this...
you should carry around a little, de-staticer.
What do you mean?
A wire.
All right, what do I do with this wire?
Well, I have one end of it, just to hold two ends of it, right?
Yep. And
touch one end to, the door frame, or, dangle it on the ground or something, or a light switch.
And wouldn't I just get shocked that way?
An insulated wire, God.
I would get shocked.
No, you wouldn't. It would go through the wire, not shocking you. It's not going to go into the wire. And then look, it's like, imagine this. Here's what the electricity is going to do. Imagine you're stuck in a traffic jam. You're an electron. You're in this horrible traffic jam, and it really sucks. And suddenly, a 12-lane freeway appears directly in front of you.
Yeah.
And no one else has access to it but you.
Yeah.
So you charge down that thing as fast as you can, because goddamn. And along the way, you see an exit. An exit that goes up and down a mountain and completely out of the way you want to go, but eventually will get where you're going. And that's also full of traffic. And it's one lane, and there's a bus on fire. Or you can see at the end of the freeway...
Where the hell is this going?
Exactly where you want to go. The electricity is not going to go through you. It's going to go through the wire.
But how is the wire any different from the handle to the bathroom?
Because you touch the other end of the wire to something. Where do you think the electricity goes when you touch it?
Where does it go when I touch the handle of the bathroom?
Yes. Do you know where it goes?
Out of me and into the bathroom.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it depends.
So what's the difference if it goes out of me and shocks me through a wire or out of me and shocks me through a handle?
Well, if you take the wires, you see, and you have it dangling on the ground all the time.
Okay, that would do it, yes. Because then it would, yes. But, touching the wire to like something prior to touching the handle doesn't help me at all. Anyway.
You could always just carry a taser and get it back.
Yeah. Point is, to unlearn this hesitation of touching the door handle, from now on, I'm gonna just go for it, like, every time.
Will you now?
Yes, I am.
If I worked at your office and I listened to the show, there would so be a Tesla coil on the other side of that door handle tomorrow.
You might get the people who work in the other offices on the floor.
Even the more people you get with a Tesla coil when you deploy it, the better off you are as a human being.
All right.
So what do you got in the news?
All right, so I actually got a bunch of news I'm going to combine here because they're more interesting when combined, right? So first of all, I got to put up some information, because some people probably didn't listen to one of our early shows, the Window Manager episode, right? So in Linux, your GUI is usually provided by the X window system, right? And the X window system just handles the windowing and stuff, and it's actually on its own. It's just a server, and you need to connect to it and run a window manager. And you could choose from many window managers. There are many choices, but there are mostly only two really popular choices and then one sort of third choice, right?
FVWM and ICE.
No, XFCE is the third choice. The two big choices, the most popular choices, are GNOME and KDE, right? And the main difference between the two is that GNOME, all of its GUI stuff is based on these GTK libraries, and KDE, all its GUI stuff is based on these Qt libraries. Now,
The difference, as far as you can tell, is that GNOME has a lot of intelligent defaults and seems to just work, and KDE has a million checkboxes.
yeah, but some people like one, some people like the other. Like, Linus Torvalds like KDE, and I like GNOME. So, use whatever you like best. Ubuntu uses GNOME, Kubuntu uses KDE, Zubuntu with an X uses XFCE, whatever. There's a whole show on it.
I've actually been using FVWM a lot at work.
I guess it's good, if you have a really specialized,
Yep.
use for it.
It's ugly. It's ugly as hell because it's easy to make FVWM do exactly what you want. It's just not easy to make it look good while it does it.
Yeah. Anyway, so the KDE recently has gone to KDE version 4, and if you want to try it out, Kubuntu has a special live CD you can get. Now, in addition to that, KDE. Oh, all right, guys. I forgot one more piece of backup information, right? The Qt library that, KDE uses to do all its GUI stuff, right, is made by this company called Trolltech. Now, on Linux, the Qt library is sort of free open source, but on Windows and Mac, not as free and open source. Like, they actually sell, Qt libraries so that you can make applications with them on Windows and Linux and whatnot. Now, the GTK libraries for GNOME are fully open source. Anyway, so the KDE 4 came out recently. You can try it out. And what happened recently is the Trolltech company said, all right, we're just going to make it all sort of open source for Windows and for Mac also. So now you can make Qt library applications work on all the OSs. And the KDE people are actively porting KOffice, Amarok, Kwrite, all the KDE applications, which are generally awesome, to Windows and Mac. So I think that's pretty cool. Now, it gets one step trickier. You can see all these things the KDE has been doing recently. KDE 4 came out. They updated, the QTs. They made them open source on the other OSs. They're porting the KDE applications to the other OSs. This is all leading up to something, unbeknownst to us, but now it was revealed. Nokia is basically effectively going to buy Trolltech right now. Nokia, who makes phones, right? So they're buying the company that makes the Qt libraries that they use to do KDE and all this other stuff. And basically, they're going to become a what do you call it? A sponsor. When someone pays someone to make art for them, you're a patron.
Yes, a patron of the arts, or in this case, a patron of the. Well, I was trying to make a joke with arts, but it doesn't really fit. So,
yep,
go on.
But Nokia is basically going to become a patron of KDE, and they're going to own Trolltech. So Nokia phones, which run the Symbian OS, I guess, traditionally, are now going to be loaded with all sorts of KDE apps and, things that are similar to KDE. So if you're someone who likes KDE, then a Nokia phone might be in your future. And I think this is getting pretty interesting here, especially for people who are, KDE users. There could be some serious integration between Symbian phones and KDE on Linux and different KDE apps on all, you have these applications that work on all OSs because the Qt will be on all OSs and your phone will, integrate with those apps. So now people could choose their OS, get a Nokia phone and work with the apps. Good stuff's going to happen, I think.
Yeah, I'm so glad I have a new BlackBerry now instead of...
Oh, BlackBerry's not bad.
BlackBerry's
not
okay.
bad.
The only problem I'm having with the BlackBerry is that Google apps are great. Google domains are great. Google domains and Google apps don't play together so well.
Well, it's Google Apps for domains, but the Google mobile apps do not work with Google Apps for domains.
And that is my trouble.
Yes, I'm gonna bitch about that at some point in the future. I got a whole thing to say.
So I have two stories that are related in a way, and I find it interesting that they both came out at a similar time. Now, first, there is this idea that what if we had cell phones all be radiation detectors or anthrax detectors or whatever, just built in. So they just kind of passively detect, and now you basically have, without having to do much other than put these in cell phones, a giant nationwide network of detectors that could be used to watch for terrorism or all sorts of dangerous things.
Well, actually, in one sense, it's not such a bad idea because it does allow for added security without any sort of invasion of privacy or reduction of civil liberties. But the problem I see is, if you have people have Geiger counters in their pockets, right? Normal people don't know shit about Geiger counters and radiation. So, if they have any way to see it detecting radiation, there's background radiation everywhere. Geiger counters tick all the time, and it's going to freak people out, and they're going to get crazy, scared, and stupid.
Well, here's the thing. This is being developed by Purdue, and the idea is that, and I can imagine that it wouldn't be just always on or accessible to the people who own the phone unless you do something to activate it or look at the data or whatever.
The nerds are gonna, they're gonna...
Oh, yeah, but the nerd who figures out how to unlock his cell phone's radiation
knows
detector...
that it's not,
knows how many millirads are dangerous and how many aren't.
Exactly.
But I think it's an interesting idea. But the thing I really want to talk about is that kind of pursuant to or related to this is this article on Slashdot about how there's a push in New York City to require permits to own any sort of biological or radiological detecting device. That is Geiger counters or anthrax detectors.
Wait, I could see banning,
nuclear weapons or anthrax.
Rods of plutonium or anthrax, but banning the things to detect them? What's the fucking point of that? Basically, you're saying, hey, everyone, bring your anthrax here. No one will know.
As far as I can tell, the idea is that, or the rationale is that people are stupid, like you said earlier. And people are more and more, as they get afraid of terrorism and all this sort of thing, are realizing that they can buy just Geiger counters and all sorts of environmental detecting things. And that people stupid in quantity with these things might detect radiation that's perfectly natural and cause a panic. And in New York City, where there's a lot of people living, a panic of stupid people is possibly the most dangerous thing that could ever happen in New York City.
That's not a bad thinking, but the correct solution to that problem is education.
I have two solutions.
Education.
One, you could just set up, and I'm sure a lot of universities and things in New York City, or even most of downstate New York, would love to do this. Free Geiger counter calibration places. You can just go and calibrate your Geiger counter, and a professional will make sure it's calibrated and give you a little pamphlet that explains how it works, and then deputize you as an honorary watch out for the terrorist dude.
I got another idea, right? Normal people aren't going to be buying the kind of Geiger counters you're going to use in a real lab, right?
Actually, most people seem to buy surplus Soviet ones that they get from Sharper Image kind of magazines.
Okay, that's bad too. What someone should do is come up with a product that's sort of like the handy dandy wuss Geiger counter, right? Where instead of going tick, 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 and then like a normal Geiger counter does, it'll just have green, yellow, and red. and it would basically never turn red unless you stuck it near some uranium or something.
Even
So-
then, it probably wouldn't. Uranium is pretty inert, all things considered.
I know, but considering that almost nothing is going to bring you to that level of radiation. I mean, maybe some weak uranium would make it yellow or something. So that way, you won't have idiots being scared, but they'll still feel safe and they'll still spend money on your handy-dandy, friendly, user-friendly Geiger counter.
I really, I see why they said they're pushing this law, and I understand all the words that were written about it, and all the words that were said, but they really just don't make sense to me, because it's just I can't imagine the government basically saying, all right, there may or may not be a fear out there that's legitimate, a thing that could be dangerous that could happen. So to protect you all, we're going to ban the possession of anything that could detect that dangerous thing.
Huh?
Education can almost, of course, then again, we say, oh, just educate people. But at the same time, how many people would even bother to go get educated or bother to even read the pamphlet that came with their Geiger counter or anything like that?
The solution is to socially engineer the people into not being dumbasses, because you can't educate them into not being dumbasses.
So how do you socially engineer people to not be stupid? We've been
Like
trying
I said,
this forever.
they'll be afraid. They buy your Geiger counter, but your Geiger counter is smarter than they are, and they will never scare them because it'll always be fucking green.
But what if Joey Jojo Shabadoo's discount Geiger counters are $5 on eBay, and they go off after you give your cat some chemo?
Then
What do we do about that?
Then the guy will show up and you'd be like, it's because he gave your cat chemo. And
But-
as long as you explain why, if he doesn't know where it came from, then he'll be afraid.
I guess the summary I have is simply that this is a really stupid idea.
pretty
I don't,
stu- it's
I
pretty
don't think
stupid.
it solves any actual
Or
problem.
better yet, right, to alleviate people's fear, you give them a Geiger counter that doesn't tell them when there's danger. We assure them that if it detects danger, it will radio, the authorities.
Okay. Now, that makes sense, because that's the kind of idea, that's kind of the, needs of the many over needs of the few. Like, the person who happens to be nearby, if something goes off or something happens.
That'd be pretty cool. You could go to Google Maps and get like a sort of, if there were these things all over the city, you could see like radiation levels around the city.
Maybe kind of like with the cell phone detectors.
Yes, kind of, only not in your cell phone against your will, but intentionally purchasing on purpose.
See, I'm almost okay with the whole cell phone detectors, even against your will kind of thing. Just because the information you could gather, not just nuclear danger, oh my God, anthrax, but you could detect a lot of environmental information and, the conditions of the air in places where people actually live and work constantly.
You mean in my pocket? The condition of the air in my pocket? The uranium in my pocket?
Well, I know you carry a lot of uranium.
I
in your
got
pocket.
a big radioactive rod in my pants, but
Oh, do you?
oh yes.
I heard it was inert.
No, quite the opposite.
I don't know. I find
It's a full
first
meltdown.
I find my first news interesting and my second news not so much frightening or stupid, but just baffling. Things of the day. I like puppies. I like robots. And nothing's funnier than watching a puppy interacting with an autonomous robot whose aggression level is set too high.
Really? I'm beginning to think YouTube is encouraging animal cruelty. I mean,
Here's
look at all these people torturing their animals with lights and robots and all sorts of manner of inanimate objects.
Now, at the same time, watch this video, and the puppy's tail does not stop wagging at any point in this video.
I think it's wagging in anger, though, and not in happiness.
Dogs don't wag their tails in anger.
Are you sure?
Yes,
How do
I'm
you
sure.
know? You dog brain reader?
I know a lot about degs,
Degs?
a lot about caravans,
You
too.
like degs?
But
Like
the
caravans
thing is,
more.
there are videos like this. There's a lot of videos like this. There's a lot of videos involving puppies and this exact same robot. Of all those videos, this one is the best, because not only did they just have the video, but they edited it properly to
They
just show...
superimposed, man.
They edited it to show all the cute, funny bits, and they added music sound effects and a scoreboard, and this is the perfect puppy versus robot video. And I think the best part at the end is where the puppy's kind of figured out what's going on, because at one point, he looks up at the dude who's obviously standing there with the camera with this look of, seriously, dude, what the fuck?
I think I can make a better puppy versus robot video.
Well, first you'd have to get yourself a puppy.
No, I would just Photoshop some puppy into like a Gundam show or something.
I would love to see you do that. I do not think that is in your realm of skill.
No, I would just pay someone else to do it and say I did it.
Scott, patron of the arts.
Yes, indeed. All right. So
So,
when you're blogging, right?
blogging. We have blogs.
Yeah. When you're blogging, right? You after you're done writing your blog post, you write it, you save it, you edit it, you save it, edit it, save it. Eventually, you push that publish button. And
then I almost immediately go, shit. And then I go edit.
but I mean, the in theory, right? As far as you know, the publish button, what it does is it, makes the post actually appear on your site instead of just in your administrator's interface, right? But in fact, when you click that publish button, a whole shit ton of crazy things happen that you don't see going on. And unless you really understand how the web works, you might not realize just how much happens when you push that publish button.
Well, it depends on what kind of, content management system you're using.
It does. It depends on a great many factors, but it also depends on other people and how popular a blog is and, exactly how much. I mean, if you just start a new blog and push the publish button in your first post, not much will happen. If you're, say, a huge popular blog with a state-of-the-art content management system and you push the button, a lot more stuff is going to happen. But, really, the many factors. The point is, my thing of the day is this little thing on Wired here. That's a nice diagram. It's sort of interactive in a shitty way, but the content is good enough to warrant the shitty interface of this diagram. And the diagram shows you, if you're a layman and you don't really understand fully, the details, but this will explain to you pretty simply all the crazy shit that goes on when you publish a blog post. And if you're interested in blogs and the web and whatnot, this might be informative to you.
Oh, yeah, and it's the 50th anniversary of Lego. We're not going to say anything beyond that.
We did a show about Lego. If we knew that it was coming up, we would have waited.
Lego bricks are to bomb diggity, and the only reason Geeknights still happens is because my mom still has all my Legos, and the day she mails them to me is the day Geeknights ends, as I build gigantic forts and then fight with Scott's gigantic forts.
But all my things are castle.
I have a lot of castle. Equally dispersed among the castle is a lot of Ice Planet.
Mm-hmm.
I got that. Anyway, we're not going to talk. We just talked about that on Thursday.
All right.
So software always gets better, right? I mean, every time software is updated, it always gets better. They always fix something. They always make it faster, stronger, lighter, bigger.
I mean, version 3 is always better than version 2, and version 4 is always better than version 3, right? I mean, they wouldn't make something worse. I mean, you have something, right? It's in a state. You do a bunch of work on it. Why would you do work on something? It takes you so much time and effort to have the result be worse than where you started. You're always moving forward. If only that were true.
So, a while ago, a long time ago, I had a copy of a piece of software called Cool Edit. I had Cool Edit 2000.
That was 8 years ago.
And I had Cool Edit Pro. Now, Cool Edit was a suite of audio editing software, single track, but it also had a multi-track component that was written originally in 1990 freaking one, all right? By some guy who was basically just an audio nerd. He was really into audio and he's a cool guy. I might have been two guys, I forget. But anyway, so this software rapidly became the premier audio editing software in much of the civilized world. Most radio stations used it for almost everything they did. This was just the best audio editing software ever. And it got better and better and better and better and better up until Cool Edit Pro version 2.1. And then in May of 2003, a company you may have heard of, you might know him, called Adobe,
All right.
bought Centrillium, which made Cool Edit.
Mm-hmm.
They then discontinued Cool Edit and nominally included everything it did in Audition.
Yeah, they made a new product called Audition, which they took Cool Edit Pro and they Adobe-fied it, and they called it Audition, and they made it worse.
Yeah, Audition. Well, when Audition first came out, it was basically just Cool Edit. And that was it. And then over time, I mean, I've used new versions of Audition, and I contend that Cool Edit was the best audio editing program ever.
I mean, Audition does have some cool features. If you buy the right equipment, right, like a digital mixing thing, you can actually have, say, 3 microphones, and it will record in Audition in 3 separate tracks, and that is pretty cool. But
I can do that in Cool Edit.
Yeah?
Yeah.
How do you do in Cool Edit?
How do I do what in Cool Edit specifically, Scott?
Well, you could do a left and a right.
You can record more than 2 tracks.
Yeah, but how can you separate it with a bunch of microphones in the same mixer, split them up into separate tracks with one sound card?
You can record from multiple sources.
But you only have one USB hole. That's it.
I only have one USB hole in my computer that has 12 USB holes.
No, I'm saying is that that's what Audition can do is with through.
Oh yeah, I know, but you can do more than 2-track recording. You can even do that with like Audacity.
Yes, but you need multiple input sources. Audition can do it through one digital input.
Well, yeah,
source.
so can Pro Tools.
Yeah,
so
I
can
know.
a lot of things.
Yes, but Cool Edit couldn't do that. That's only one cool thing that Audition does that Cool Edit doesn't do, and there are many cool things Cool Edit did that Audition doesn't do.
Well, the real deal was simply that, I mean, if you're doing like professional music, like many track music, then Pro Tools and all those professional programs and Audition are actually they're good for that, and that's what you probably should be using.
Yep.
But the problem was, what a lot of people used Cool Edit for was radio, kind of like podcasting now. Some people talking, you're probably going to bring it down to like a stereo or a mono, AM, FM radio kind of thing.
You're not going to have too many tracks.
You're going to do a lot of single track editing. You're more concerned with like quickly editing and quickly processing.
You're not really
audio.
too concerned. You're mostly concerned with the volume and not so much, other things that you are concerned with music.
Yeah, I mean, you'll compress and all that stuff, and you'll do a lot of filtering and stuff. But other than that, you don't need a lot. You just need a very specialized piece of software that does all those things very, very efficiently and very, very well. And now this wouldn't have been a problem because an Audition, while the interface I don't think is the greatest thing in the world, can do most of what Cool Edit could do. Audition cost a fuck of a lot more than Cool Edit did.
Yeah, I mean, Cool Edit was originally like crippleware, where you could get it, but a bunch of features were damaged, and it cost.
Did you say crippleware because you just looked it up on Wikipedia and they say that it was crippleware there? Maybe.
But it was only a few $100, and back in the day, we were like, a few $100. What the fuck? We're not paying that. Now, what does Audition cost? Like $1 zillion.
Now, Audition is like $350, $400.
Oh, it's like twice as much.
And the thing is, Cool Edit was used by radio stations, and I'd always been under the impression, and I'd had people tell me this before, that a lot of radio stations still use Cool Edit to this day.
Yeah, I mean, they had Cool Edit. Cool Edit was fine. It was perfect. It did everything they needed it to do. So why would anyone ever, upgrade or switch to something else unless it was better? And what the product that came out was worse, so no one's changed, or very few people have changed.
Yeah, now don't get me wrong. It's not like a Cool Edit was the second crumbing of Jeebus and Audition like can't edit audio at all or anything. Audition's a pretty solid piece of software. The real issue is that Cool Edit was perfectly fine and had a lot of really good stuff in it, and furthermore, it served a very specific purpose. It filled a niche that there is no longer a solution that fills that niche. There is no longer a low-cost, specialized piece of software for podcasting or radio. I mean, what are you going to use? Resound is the spiritual successor to Cool Edit. Resound is great, except that it's really crappily written, crashes all the time, and isn't even half as functional.
Yeah, and Audacity is free, but Audacity doesn't even do like 10% of the stuff Cool Edit does, and the interface is not even close.
Audacity, if any of you are using Audacity to run like a compressor or anything, especially the built-in stuff, those things don't work. Those things are awful. That's why your podcast sounds bad.
Yeah, and things like GarageBand are designed for music, and the stuff that, the podcasting stuff is hacked in there and not good. That's why we couldn't stand it.
And it bothers me that there's really no kind of low-cost, entry-level, single-track, I want to do a podcast audio editing software that works.
Yep.
And I feel like someone could write something, but no one does. And I don't have certainly any time to do that. I've thought about it several times. I started learning Lisp just so I could write Nyquist plugins. But yeah, that's in the hopper with a lot of other things.
Yeah. So another thing, right? There was a program back in the day when, MP3s are brand new.
Oh, something that involves llamas and whoopings.
Yeah, the only way to really play MP3s, or at least the only practical way, was to use a program called Winamp.
Winamp. It really whips the llama's ass.
I don't know why that was a bad, because sheep? Where'd the sheep come from?
What sound do you think llamas make? No. And llamas make the noise that you heard in Cool Edit, or not Cool Edit, in Winamp.
Anyway.
Winamp by Nullsoft was like the bomb. People used to joke about how Winamp was more stable than Windows. And like, man, if your Windows starts crashing, just turn on Winamp. It'll hold it together. It'll take up all the RAM and save it.
Yeah. I mean, Winamp was pretty much just a terrific program, and pretty much everything Nullsoft made was terrific programs. I wonder what happened to, because they went on, remember they made that, what was that thing called?
Well, they were bought by AOL.
No, they were bought by AOL, right? But the guy, Justin Frankel, he went on and he made that other program that was like to make the encrypted peer-to-peer whatever. Remember that?
Oh, yeah, and whatever happened with that?
I don't know. That obviously didn't pan out. But I don't know what he went on to do after that. I got to look him up.
You continue to tell the story. I'll look up that business.
Yeah, every program he ever made was awesome. The guy, Justin Frankel, I think, of Nullsoft, right? Anyway, so Winamp came out. Winamp was like the perfect MP3 playing program in every way, and it pretty much set the standard for MP3 playing programs from there on out, right?
It was like the best thing ever.
Yeah, and it just kept getting better and better and better and better and better and better, right? Then one day, they got Winamp 1, then Winamp 2, and they just kept improving Winamp 2 without making any big changes. They would just fix bugs and add features and fix bugs and add features to Winamp 2, right?
He wrote Nutella, but the one you were thinking of, I think, was Waste.
Yeah, Waste, that was the one.
Waste was some actually hot shit.
Yeah, think about that. Nutella, the most popular peer-to-peer thing there is, was also written by the guy who wrote Winamp. This is an important software developing guy, all right?
Yep. We should do an episode on waste, or just the concepts of waste, because if you wanted to do shady business on the internet, if you wanted to pull off illegal shenanigans, Waste was basically written to facilitate that.
Yeah, we tried to set it up in college, and we did, but we couldn't. It was it was too difficult with the key sharing. No one actually got to use it.
It was basically one of those, it was so secure that none of us, it was not worth the effort to be that secure in our lives. I didn't have much to hide, so.
No, plus, Waste wasn't all that complicated. Like, I could write Waste if I wanted to, so, whatever. Anyway, so Winamp was great, and eventually they said, all right, Winamp 2 is great. We're going to come out with Winamp 3. And Winamp 3, the big advantage of it was that you could do these crazy skins, because, one of the Winamp's biggest thing was the skins. It was skinnable before anything else is skinnable, right? So
I used to have a collection of like 200 anime themed skins.
Oh yeah, it was all about the Winamp skins.
Oh, Winamp.
I remember picking the Winamp skin was so important to match your desktop wallpaper.
I had a plugin that would rotate the skins depending on, like, it was awesome. Oh man,
all right.
Those were good days.
Those were good days. Yeah. Oh, I have nostalgia for those days. I wish computing was so simple now.
I remember specifically, I think it was version 1.91 or 1.9. Anyway.
Oh, those are good days. Okay, anyway. So Winamp 3 came out, and the thing with Winamp 3, you think Winamp 3 would be better than Winamp 2? No, it was just shit. It was slow, it was unstable, it crashed, it used too many resources, and it offered no advantages over Winamp 2 whatsoever, besides that you could go crazy with the skins, and going crazy with the skins made it slower and shittier, and it sucked.
It was less stable, and wasn't that right after AOL bought them, and they included a lot of AOL
It was
bullshit?
either right after or right before, and it was not good times at all. And people just kept using Winamp 2 and didn't use Winamp 3. And eventually, Winamp 3 was like beta. And then they sort of pulled it back eventually. Like over time, they tried to push it forward, and then they pulled it back. Because it sucked so much that no one used it, and everyone used Winamp 2 anyway. And it was like, haha, we win. And eventually, now I think they're in Winamp 5 or 6. Or...
Well, no, they realized that everyone had turned on them. So what they did is they came out with Winamp 5. And the rationale was, we took the good stuff from 2, the fact that it worked, and the good stuff from 3, not much, and they made 5, which was actually really, really good. And that was pretty much the MP3 player until very recently.
Well, 5.52 is the current version according to Winamp.com, and it is the MP3. It's pretty badass. I mean, if you're not using iTunes and an iPod, Winamp is the way to go. It's still to this day, but Winamp...
Well, unless you're in Linux, then I use Audacious and XMMS, depending on what I'm doing.
Yeah, I use Amarok or whatever, but Audacious also. But yeah, Winamp version 3 was worse than 2, quite significantly. And,
yeah, we don't need to get into all the details, but it had like serious problems. And also, I think a lot of people just didn't trust it because they didn't trust what was going on with the development, and there was shadiness going on.
There was indeed shadiness going on.
But why does software get worse? How can this happen?
Well, sometimes it just happens where, software, gets worse for the same reasons that software is bad in the first place, right? Like you see a new project and the project will result in a bad piece of software. Well, when someone, tries to make a big change to a piece of software, it's really no different than when they try to make a brand new piece of software, and what they try could suck. I mean, what if they had tried to make an MP3 player from scratch? Well, it might suck. Well, Winamp 3 was just a new MP3 player from scratch. They just called it Winamp 3, and it sucked. If you poorly design software, if you aim too high, if you have ideas, but those ideas aren't actually good ideas, they're good on paper, but in reality, they're no good. All those things can cause a piece of software to get worse.
I think also there's a factor that, and this happens a lot with operating systems. I mean, how many times does Microsoft release an update and it fixes something, but it breaks something else? Or there's a kernel update in Linux, and now there's support for the Foo-Baz motherboard, whatever. But suddenly support for the Bar-Baz-Bat-Bam motherboard doesn't work so well, and you start getting kernel panics.
Yeah, this can happen a lot. I mean, if you're, especially with low-level software like kernels and drivers and whatnot, is you're writing this piece of software. Let's say it's a sound card driver, right? And that sound card driver supports, there are 5 different sound cards that will all use that same driver. Well, let's say a new sound card comes out, and that sound card also wants to use that driver. Okay. So you modify the sound card driver to work with that new 6th sound card. In doing that, you might make it so that some of the old sound cards don't work anymore, and you really have to test it with all the different sound cards to make sure. And if you you have Winamp 2, it works on all these different Windows computers. Okay. So now you make some changes to it. Suddenly, you might, it might work on your computer and all the computers you have available, but you might have done something that makes it not work for people who have a certain video card. You don't know. It could happen. And, so whenever you're changing a piece of software, and for any reason, there's always a chance that you could make it work or not work depending on, the peculiarities of any individual user's, configuration, hardware and software.
Now, I guess a lot of people might have expected us to say the obvious of, well, the reason software gets bad and can't get fixed is because obviously it's closed source. I mean, look, if CoolEdit had been open source, then people would have just forked the good version and continued with it forever. And Resound would have basically just been CoolEdit. Awesome. Or when Winamp 3 came out, people would have just kept making Winamp 2 better. But open source software suffers from this problem just as much, because while open source means, yes, if things go bad or you don't like the direction development is going, you can always just cut and run, take the good version and then fix it. But how many people have the time or the expertise or the knowledge, not just programming, but in terms of what the software does? I mean, if you want to write a CoolEdit or you want to write a Resound, you don't just have to know how to code well. You have to know about audio, a lot about audio, or you have to know someone who does. And it's often a fallacy that just because something's open source means you're always safe from problems in the development chain.
Well, you're safe in the fact that if the new version is worse, the old version is always still available. I mean, what if Winamp, they don't have the old versions available on their website. They only have the new version there, as far as I know.
Well, they actually did for a long time keep available version 2 and version 3, and you can pick.
They might still, I don't know, but
plus, don't forget oldversions.com.
Is that website still around?
I have no idea.
I'm gonna check right now.
But I mean, yeah, that is true. I mean, at the same time, I guess we're just lucky in that CoolEdit specifically, Centrillium doesn't exist anymore at all, and copy protection was not quite as robust as it is now. Back then, there was no phoning home or anything. If you want a copy of CoolEdit, you can probably get it. However, I will say that every version of CoolEdit I've ever seen on the torrent networks out there, every single one without exception, has been absolutely full of malware like you wouldn't believe. You do not want to install CoolEdit that you just find somewhere on the internet. Get it from someone you trust. Try to make a friend at a radio station. They'll give it to you.
Hey, by the way, I'm at oldversion.com here.
Yeah?
And oldversion.com doesn't indeed still exist.
It's a porn site now?
No. He's got old versions. You can get old versions of all these different programs. In fact, you can get old versions of CoolEdit Pro. You can get CoolEdit 132, 133,
really?
134A, 2.0. I don't know if they're unlocked or anything, but he's got old versions here.
I will look into this because I forgot. I didn't really think. To be honest, I did not believe that website was still around, and I did not do my due diligence.
They got Cool Edit Pro 2.0, Cool Edit Pro 2000.
Do they have 2.1? Because that's the business.
No, they don't have 2.1.
Oh well.
But they got, let's see, iTunes. They have every version of iTunes from 4.1 to 7.02. Oldversion.com, because newer is not always better.
I think the best example of that ever was Windows ME.
Yeah.
It was newer. Arguably, it was not better.
Well, Vista's the same way. It's newer, but it's arguably not better. A lot of people don't like it, and it's really not doing too well.
I will say this. I think that a lot of the people who say they don't like Vista don't know why they don't like Vista and don't actually understand what is good or bad about Vista.
Well, I think
I've heard a lot of unreasonable, unverified claims that Vista has bad things in it that's just totally and patently not true.
Yeah, I think Vista's only real problem is that it's not significantly better. It's just more of the same.
Yeah.
It's not really. I used it. It wasn't terrible or anything. I don't see what people are crying about.
I used Windows 95, like B, right, or A, right up until Windows 2000 came out.
Yeah.
But that's just because I didn't have USB, so I had no reason to upgrade.
Mm-hmm. Oh, ICQ. There's another program you hated when it changed.
Oh, man. ICQ. They made new versions of ICQ, and let me tell you, the only complaint people had against ICQ was that it was kind of bloated, and it was. But part of the reason it was bloated...
I used ICQ Lite.
It was like the first one. It was like, God damn, people don't realize how old ICQ was. Made by that Israeli company, Mirabilis.
Yep.
It was hot shit. And there was...
Spira Mirabilis.
Spira Mirabilis soup. But like, we did a show on the history of IM, didn't we?
I think we did.
If we didn't, we will. But yeah, ICQ was like, it wasn't, IM was this new concept. So AOL had its IM, but it was basically just chat and nothing else. It was like chat with someone.
Yeah, it was chat room with two people. It wasn't IM.
And ICQ was kind of like directly in between email and instant messaging. Like, it was a full-on messaging solution, as in it had the statefulness and the offline delivery and the multi-chatness of email coupled with the immediacy of AOL, instant messenger kind of thing. And I think that it was the best fusion. The problem was it was written by a bunch of cool dudes who were all cool and techie, and as a result, the interface looked like something that only a hardcore techie could love.
It had way too many buttons, and they kept adding way too many features, but...
And then they started adding bullshit to it, and then AOL just bought it, and then...
that was the end of that.
Yeah, ICQ died the day AOL bought it.
Pretty much.
Though, ICQ died a long time before that, and I think it was taken off life support when AOL bought it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Of course, now I have Google Talk, and I couldn't care less.
Nope, could not care. Jabbers. But anyway, yeah, we got anything else to say on this topic?
I don't think we do. That's fine. It's Monday. I'm looking forward to some chicken. This has been Geeknights with Rim and Scott. Special thanks to DJ Pretzel for the opening music.
Be sure to visit our website at www.frontrowcrew.com, where you'll find show notes, links, our awesome forum, a link to our Frapper map, and links to all the RSS feeds.
We say feeds plural because Geeknights airs 4 nights a week, covering 4 different brands of geekery. Mondays are science and technology. Tuesdays, we have video games, board games, and RPGs. Wednesdays are anime, manga, comic nights. And Thursdays are the catch-alls for various rants and tomfoolery.
You can send us feedback by email to geeknights@frontrowcrew.com. Or you can send audio feedback via Odeo. Just click the link that says Send Me an Odeo on the right side of our website.
If you like what you hear, you can catch the last 100 episodes in iTunes or in your favorite podcatcher. For the complete archives, visit the website, which has everything.
Geeknights is distributed under a Creative Commons Attribution Non-Commercial Share-alike 2.5 license. This means you can do whatever you want with it as long as you give us credit, don't make money, and share it in kind. Geeknights is recorded live with no studio and no audience. But unlike those other late shows, it's actually recorded at night.